Hey there, duelists, and welcome back to the Crystal Domain. Today we're going to be doing a deck profile for Domain format, and we're going to be covering a Crystal Beast slash Magnifistorming deck with the new archetype that they revealed that's based all on Mystical Space Typhoon and stuff like that. I think it's a good fit together with Crystal Beasts, and I wanted to be one of the first people to kind of get these two engines blended together. So my goals for the deck is the Crystal Beast has a ability to be really resilient and that they can go to the back row and are easily brought back, but also that there is newer style cards that want to also send the opponent's stuff into the back row, and it's a lot harder for them to deal with that versus us. So we're running the goal, of course, is to send our opponent's stuff to the back row, like they're monsters that are more annoying to deal with. And when they're in the back row, they're much easier to deal with for basic removal, such as a repeatable Mystical Space Typhoon in the Magnifistorming engine, among other forms of removal that allows us to get creative with how we deal with monsters on the board. So that's the main goal, and I wanted to go over just kind of how this stuff comes together. So we're going to go ahead and go into a card by card for this deck. I did have a prior video on the channel, if you have not seen it yet, talking about the Magnifistorming cards individually, but we're going to be kind of going more into like the cards themselves, but what they're applying to this deck versus just like them as an individual deck themselves. So the first card is Magnifistorm Great Pyre Phoenix. If a quick play spell card is activated, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a quick play spell card is activated, you can target up to two cards your opponent controls and shuffle them into the deck, which is great removal. If MST is activated while this card is in graveyard, you can special summon this card, and then you can only use each of the effects once per turn. Obviously, good removal, easily summoned, good body, 3k beater, among other things. Quite nice. Then we have Magnifistorm, Vortex, Beauty, Valrune. This is like the big defensive one. The other guy was a level 9 with 3k attack, and this is a level 9 with 3k defense. These are some of our level 9 bodies that we'll be able to use with some of our Xyz plays. Very limited card pool in terms of level 9s, but we do have a target. So if a quick play spell card is activated, you can special summon this card from your hand, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, and you happen to have MST in graveyard, you can negate it with a quick effect. And then if you have two or more MSTs in grave, you can destroy that monster. We're not going to have that in this case, but it is a negate at the minimum, which is quite nice. If MST is activated while this card is in grave, you can special summon it as well. So these are repeatable bodies as we loop our MST to ideally deal with people's back row, and then extra bonus, also deal with their monsters by sending them to the back row, which is quite nice. Then we have Magnifistorming Krothia. This is a level 6 monster, which does allow us access to level 6 plays. Only really one target, but a solid target at that. So this is our level 6 monster in the archetype. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while your opponent controls no spell or traps, which can be quite nice and easily done if we are dealing with their back row efficiently. You can only use each of the following effects of Krothia once per turn. If a quick play spell is activated, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special, you can add a Magnifistorm card and or a MST from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is great recursion, because on summon, it can either get the other Magnifistorm cards, or if we've already gone through the engine, we can use this to loop MST. This card is funny in that we are going to be able to send it to the back row and then re-get it back out, which is a hilarious way to loop its summoning in order to get MST over and over again, to loop MST to deal with people's stuff. Then we have Magnifistorming Suin. This is our level 3 target in the deck. If you have MST in grave and your opponent happens to control no back row, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Magnifistorming Suin once per turn this way, and then if it is normal or special, you can add a Magnifistorming spell or trap or MST from deck to hand. Another great means of getting out the other Magnifistorming cards, mainly the back row targets, as well as getting MST, again, able to loop the MST repeatedly with the various cards that are all synergistically working together as we are able to push them to the back, and then in theory also push them back forward. And then in doing so, we are going to be able to loop their abilities to get out the Magnifistorming engine, and then again, you reuse MST repeatedly in the same game. Then we have Magnifistorming Erdam. This is our other level 3 target. If you have MST Engrave or your opponent controls no spell or traps, you can summon this card from your hand. Only once per turn this way, and if it's normal or special, you can add a Magnifistorming monster or a MST from deck to your hand, except Erdam. So this one also targets our monsters instead of our backrow or MST. Again, same thing, looping to get MST or looping to get the other pieces of the Magnifistorming engine. Then lastly, we have Magnifistorming Magala for our monsters, our other level 3 target, meaning we're going to be using a lot of level 3s and Xyz plays as well. So for the most part, the Magnifistorming engine gives us access to level 3 Xyz, level 6, and level 9. If you have an MST Engrave or your opponent controls no spell traps, you can summon this card from your hand, only once per turn this way. And if a Magnifistorming Quick Play spell card or MST is activated, you can special summon a Magnifistorm monster from your deck with a different name from the monsters you control. But then you're locked into Wind, which is like fine for the most part, because we're not really going to be special summoning too much outside of Wind to begin with. So really, getting locked into Wind for a turn is really just, we're focused in on that portion of the deck, and then in other turns we can pivot into the variety that the Crystal Beasts provide. So again, good support. This is allowing us to get out any of the Magnifistorming monsters, which could be very good. Then for the spells and traps of the archetype, we have Magnifistorming Stanza Tribute. This is a quick play spell card that allows us to either add a level 4 or lower Magnifistorm monster from deck to hand, or add a MST from deck to hand. And if this card is destroyed by the effect of MST, you can set this card. There is the thing where if you need to, like, destroy a card or you're in a mirror, other people could hypothetically be playing MST, and it's a bit of a gotcha, where if they are also playing these cards or just happen to be running MST in their deck, then you will also get off the ability to just reset the card if it gets destroyed, which is funnier in a mirror match where they do kind of like offset each other by being able to both still perform what they want to do, but also it's even funnier if you do run into just a guy playing MST and Domain, and they get got by you running Magnifistorming cards that did not expect. So, this one's great, obviously, for tutoring. Get out our monsters, get out MST. The goal being to get out these cards out of the deck so we're not drawing them, and then having them available to just loop repeatedly. Magnifistorming Summoning Technique, another quick play spell that can either send a Magnifistorm monster from deck to graveyard or add a MST from deck or graveyard to hand. Recursion, as well as a Foolish Burial for the Magnifistorm monsters, is excellent. And then we have Magnifistorming Sight Trance, another quick play spell. You can draw 2 cards to discard a Magnifistorming card or 1 quick play spell. And if you do not have any of those in your hand, you discard your entire hand. This is a great means of doing Allure of Darkness in deck, which is funny, and then it can also add a MST from deck or graveyard to your hand. I do enjoy that this archetype just gets a built-in archetype Foolish Burial as well as a Allure of Darkness within archetype, which is quite cool. And then the continuous trap card for the deck is Magnifistorming Sovereign Tyranny. This card is once per turn. You can target 3 quick play spell cards in grave, including a Magnifistorming card, and then apply them in sequence. You shuffle them into the deck and then draw a card, which is great recursion, as well as when monsters you control will gain 300 attack and defense for the rest of the turn, which is also good if you just have to beat over some guys. And then once per chain, when a MST is activated, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects, and if this card has happened to be destroyed by the effect of MST, you can set this card. It does build in negating into MST, which is quite funny, but also it is a great means of recursion, meaning that this archetype is also going to be very good with Runics, which are a quick play engine that is quite good. So this does add extra diversity to that deck as well. We're not doing that today, but the goal being that this is a good engine of cards that could be applied to lots of stuff, which is very cool. And then, of course, we have Mystical Space Typhoon, the unofficial member of this archetype that allows you to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. In the case of with the added support, it is a loopable destructive effect, as well as a negate if you have the continuous spell or continuous trap card out. This is a engine that is going to be balanced around the fact that we can loop these cards effectively by getting them into the back row and back out of the back row. They can also recur themselves a bit, which is quite nice. And then also they are refilling the deck so that we can reapply these cards and then continue to loop MST to blow up people's stuff, which is very good. Then we have, of course, our Crystal Beast engine. We're running Rainbow Dragon because we need it as a target for Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, which is also important for it's an 8th name if any of our other guys get hit or if we just haven't gotten into all 7 Crystal Beasts. Ideally, we go more in the direction of getting this guy out early and then ignoring one of the other ones later on in the game. All the other bricky Crystal Beasts, excluding Carbuncle, which obviously is a soul charge of special summoned from the back row and allows you to special summon as many Crystal Beasts as possible from Spell and Trap Card Zone to the field if it is special summoned, which is repeatable through other means in this deck. We are going to... The goal, beyond the fact that we want to be looping like the Magnifistorming cards, is also that we want to loop the Crystal Beasts that we are sending back and forth into the back row. And then Ruby Carbuncle doesn't have its own ability to summon itself out, but with other cards in this deck like the Valence Field Spells, as well as Sinless Sinful Spoils itself allows us to shove a card forward from the Spell and Trap Card Zone. You can treat Ruby Carbuncle more like the advanced version that can special summon itself, which is quite nice. And then we have Crystal Master and Crystal Keeper. Crystal Master is a great tutor, as well as a protection effect to protect our Ultimate Crystal and Crystal Beast monsters from card effects if summoned as a spell card through the Pendulum ability, or as a monster, you contribute it to tutor out a Ultimate Crystal monster, or a Crystal Beast monster, or a Crystal Spell or Trap from deck to hand, which is a great starter if we, for whatever reason, are not really getting the idea of using Sapphire Pegasus, which, of course, is our deck master. And then Crystal Keeper, which also has the ability to prevent... it has a 1 per turn blanket effect of if your Ultimate Crystal monsters or Crystal Beast cards would be destroyed. Instead, they are not. This could be great if you are dealing with a board wipe, if they Heavy Storm, if you Heavy Storm, if you get Harpy's Feather Dustered. Your back row monsters will be protected as long as they are crystal cards, which is quite a decent protection effect. And then we have our powerful Crystal Beast spells and traps. Crystal Bond is a search. Rainbow Bridge is a search. Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates is either a search or is a special summon from hand, deck, graveyard, or back row. Rainbow Bridge of the Heart is an additional normal summon as well as removal if a Crystal Beast gets destroyed in the back row or gets sent to the back row. You can send this card to the hand to also target a card they control and rip it to the hand, which is quite nice. Golden Rule is a cracked Monster Reborn that you special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your hand or graveyard with a different name than any of the other ones you have, and then you take 2 other ones from deck and put them face up in the Spell and Trap Card Zone, which is great for getting out names quickly to get an easy access to 7 for Rainbow Dragon into the extra deck version of Overdrive, or is also just a really good Monster Reborn effect that can lead into very powerful plays. Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is great to get out of the deck, either with Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates or Foolish Burial Goods, where you'll throw this to the graveyard and then send it to, or banish from graveyard, to add a Crystal Beast monster and any field spell from deck to hand. Obviously, you'll be getting one of the Valence Word field spells, which will grab the other one for you on play, and then that gives you access to the ability to send monsters to the back row and also special summon monsters from the back row. This does work for everybody, but the goal is that you're going to be taking away one of their field spell zones, which is quite good. Crystal Boon is great because it does gain you life points by special summoning Crystal Beasts from the back row to the field, and then you will gain life points equal to the combined original attack of the Crystal Beasts, which is good for staying in the game. Crystal Brilliance does give each of your Crystal Beast monsters attack equal to their original defense, and then you can also special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your hand or graveyard by sending this card to the graveyard, and then also damage is halved for that turn, so it is protection for you to not die, and then also turns your Crystal Beast into beat sticks, which is quite nice. Crystal Conclave, classic control. It allows you to, if a Crystal Beast monster is destroyed by battle card effect, to special summon any Crystal Beast monster from your deck, which is quite good. And then also you can send it from the field to the graveyard to target a Crystal Beast monster you control and a card on the field and return them to the hand, which is quite good. Crystal Miracle is our in-house negate. You can destroy a Crystal Beast card on your field to negate the activation of a spell, trap, or monster effect. And then you can float this card in the graveyard by banishing it to place a Crystal Beast monster from hand, deck, or graveyard in your spell and trap card zone, which is a great floating effect. Not really in archetype, it might as well be. Sinless Symbol Spoils, which its bottom ability is that you can target a monster card in spell and trap card zone and special summon it, which is excellent in this deck. And a main goal of looping our Magnifistorming cards as well as our Crystal Beast cards, particularly Ruby Carbuncle. So that covers our main engines. Now we have a little bit of some small packages going on here. So we have our generically fun wind cards. We have Elector, Sovereign of Birds. This guy can be special summoned if your opponent controls 2 or more face-up monsters of the same attribute. And then once per turn, you can target a face-up card on the field, and the target's effects are negated during the turn, which is very good. We have Cataclysmic Cryonic Koldo, which if a face-up wind monster you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card and then place a spell or trap card zone from the field on the top of the deck, which is also very good for dealing with them losing out on a good draw by instead just getting what they already had. Flying Kamakiri number 1 is our wind battle recruiter, oldie but a goodie. And then we have a weird one with the Atmosphere. So it cannot be normal summoned or set, but it can be special summoned from the hand by banishing 2 monsters you control and 1 monster from grave. And then once per turn, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and equip that target to this card, which will send the monster to the spell and trap card zone, if I remember correctly, which is a funny way of removal, but also fitting to the deck. And then the equipped card's stats are given to this card in the form of attack and defense, which can be quite good to then beat over monsters that are annoying to deal with. And then Win the Wind Channeler, which you can discard it and another wind monster to add any wind monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which is great with alongside cards like Flying Kamakiri to get access to our Magnifistorming engine. And then also, if a wind monster you control is destroyed by battle while this card is in hand, you can special summon this card. Granted, on the top end of the ability, if you do use this card to tutor out a wind monster, you are locked into wind for effects, which is fine for the most part. We're very rarely activating other effects in this deck when it comes to types, so it should be fine. Then our removal, we have Sphere Mode. This is great to nuke 3 bodies on board to give them a orb, which is great. Dominus Purge is a great negate. And then also, if you have a trap and grave, you can destroy the target. And then if you've activated this card from your hand, you cannot activate the effects of Dark, Water, or Fire for the rest of the duel. So if you use it as a hand trap, it does nuke those 3 types. But that really only targets things like Crystal Keeper and Crystal Master, which are really only one-time uses anyway, so it's not a big deal. Harpy's Feather Duster for one-sided board wipe of their back row. Harpy's Feather Storm for one-sided monster negate of a person. The Harpy part doesn't really matter because we cannot activate it from hand. And then if this card is under spell and trap cards and destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add a Harpy's Feather Duster from deck or graveyard to your hand, which is another great recursion piece for our one-sided back row board wipe, which we do want their board. You want their back row to be empty as much as possible so that you can send their monsters to the back row, which is also funny. Giant Trunade is mostly here because it does target everybody, but it is also a back row reset for us if we need to reconfigure what is in the back row. And then a funny tech card is Quillpen of Galdos. You can target 2 wind monsters in grave and 1 card on the field. You shuffle the 2 targets into the deck and then return the other one to the hand. Removal and recursion all in one, which is very fun. And then Spiritual Wind Dart Miyabi. You contribute a wind monster and then target a card your opponent controls and place it on the bottom of the deck, which is good removal, obviously. You can just blow up a wind monster and get it back quite easily through the recursion pieces we have in this deck. And then also sending it to the bottom of the deck, it's either going to have to get searched again or it just might genuinely be gone for the rest of the game, which is quite nice. Symbol Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye is just the ability to send a monster to the back row, which is good removal. And then Omega Judgment is excellent in this deck. You can target a face-up monster in your spell and trap card zone. 2 cards your opponent controls, blow up the 2. Also, blow up the card you have that is in your spell check red zone, which destroying them is what we want to do with stuff like Rainbow Bridge, as well as like other things like destroying them for Miracle to float, or Brilliance or Boon to float. Any literally it's an excellent means of it's a freebie for you, and then they lose their good cards, which is quite good. Then we have some like generic stuff. We got Pot of Greed and Pot of Avarice, Draw Power, and then Recursion in the case of monsters for Avarice. Graceful Charity is the strongest card ever printed. Slash Draw is excellent recursion to just reset our deck very easily. Foolish Barrow Goods, again, is mostly to target out Rainbow Bridge of Salvation to get our field spells. And then Ebon Sun is a very good card for life gain, for special summoning monsters, gain attack, or returning our monsters to hand. Um, or recursion. Stay hydrated. And then the Valence World field spells. So Shinra Bancho is when the card is activated, you can place a Valence field spell from your deck face up in your opponent's field zone, except a copy of the self. If there are 2 cards in the field zones, the turn player can target 1 monster card in the spell check red zone, and they special summon this card to their own main monster zone in its same column. So from the back row forward to the monster zone, the turn player can only use the effect of Shinra Monster once per turn. Vice versa is Koning Wisen, which will then grab the respective other copy. If there are 2 cards in the field spell zone, the turn player can target a effect monster in the opponent's main monster zone in the same column as one of the monsters they control. They place that opponent's monster face up as a continuous spell in their spell and trap card zone in the same column. If that zone is occupied, you destroy the occupying card. So this is also great removal as well, because you will send their monster that you don't like to the back row. Sure, they can resummon it, but like they also lose out on a key back row piece, which is very good. And then protection for that field spell is multi-universe, a very stably domain card that can either search back out the field spell you need or protect the field spell in play. And then lastly, we have our hand traps. Droll Lockbird obviously is good stuff. If they go to add cards from the main deck to the hand, except during the draw phase, you pitch this thing, and then it is a lingering effect that for the rest of the turn, cards cannot be added from either player's main deck to the hand, which is excellent. Moonlit Chill, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard this card, target one of those face-up monsters, negate its effects, and then also they take damage equal to its original attack, which is good burn, and then also a negate, which is quite good. We're running 2 Mulch armies and Fuelos and Nyalis. Fuelos is the maxi for if they play special summon monsters from the extra deck or deck. And then Nyalis is the maxi if they play special summon a monster from graveyard or banish, which is quite good. And then Call by the Grave, obviously, because we don't want to be hand trapped, and instead we tell them no, or because annoying cards in grave that repeat themselves, we get rid of them. And then the extra deck, we have both of our Rainbow Dragons. Our main target is going to be Overdrive, which is a huge guy that becomes 11,000 attack, which is a great OTK option. And then also you can tribute it to shuffle all cards on the field into the deck, and then special summon as many banished Crystal Beast monsters as you like, which is a great means of winning the game. Win the Wind Charmer Verdant is a great link to target that can take a monster from their graveyard if they are wind, and special summon it to your own field that it points to. And then if this link summon card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add a wind monster with 1500 less or defense from deck to hand, which is a great means of getting into the Magnifistorming cards, as well as like our battle recruiter, and like that's pretty much it. But it also technically targets stuff like the atmosphere before they're played, which is quite funny. But mostly it is for like Cobalt Eagle, Magnifistorming, and then like Flying Kamakiri, which is good targeting to get those cards out of the deck to be usable. It also does technically also kit like Mulch armies if we're board wiped fully. Then we could hit Fuelos and then like on an empty board get into maxing our hand back up, which is quite good. Daigusto Emerald is a good recursion piece that you can detach a material to target 3 monsters in grave, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw a card, which is quite good. And then our first rank 6 is Dragonlark Peyrin. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while a monster other than Peyrin is on the face up on the field that was special summoned from the graveyard. During the standby phase, you can detach a material from this card, target a level 5 or lower monster in your graveyard, and special summon it, which is great for looping into stuff like our Magnifistorming monsters, which is quite good. And then it protects itself because we have a guy that is brought back from the graveyard onto the field. Leviair is one of our rank 3s. That's great to get banished cards back to the field, which is very good. Lightning Chidori, removal. Tornado Dragon, also removal. Totem Bird is a negate, which is very good. Bamboozling Gossip Shadow is a negate also that turns the effect of the card into each player draws a card, which is fun for some like group hug shenanigans. And then our rank 9 Xyz monster that's available is Phantom Fortress. Enter Blanthir, whatever. Once per turn, you can rip a material from it, and then either banish a card your opponent controls, banish a card from their hand, random, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of their deck face up. Usually you're going to hit a card either in hand or on the field, but it is still great removal. And then for our Link monster stuff, we got Apollosa. It's just a good generic powerful card for lots of negates. Samorg is also quite good here. It prevents our stuff from being targeted, especially it and things that it points to, which is quite good. And then it can special summon Winged Beast monsters from hand or deck, which is quite good for getting out some of our guys like Crothia or, Cobalt Eagle, Sovereign of Birds, Atmosphere. I don't think it can actually target Atmosphere, but the point stands. It can get some of our stuff back, and then it does it based on the level equal to or lower than the number of unused spell or trap card zones on the field. So if we're keeping their back row clean, this card just can run away with it, which is quite good. Great Fly is great to buff our wind monsters and nerf earth monsters, but then if it is destroyed by battle or card effect, it floats into a wind monster in grave and adds it to your hand, which is quite good. And then lastly is Tribrigade Fergit, which during the main phase is an additional, you can special summon a level 4 or lower beast warrior, or winged beast monster from your hand, but you cannot use monsters as link material for the rest of the turn except for those types, which is not really that important. We're usually going to be doing like Xyz plays and stuff like that, or like Overdrive, but like it is a minor restriction. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can draw a card and then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. So all in all, our goal, as mentioned, is to be a hater of the back row. So if you enjoyed this breakdown of this deck and its intent, leave your thoughts down below on the deck profile itself, the deck in general, and anything you would add to it, some spicy tech options that you thought up that would be fun recommendations for me. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to stay informed of all the different stuff I'm doing, whether it's Domain, General Yu-Gi-Oh!, Commander, Pokemon, whatever it is I'm doing. You're just informed of all the different stuff I'm yapping about on the channel. We are nearing 500 subs as we get ever closer, and it would be sick to reach that goal. Probably not by the end of the year, but we can certainly try. So, of course, subscribe if you haven't yet, and leave a like on the video. Share it with a friend. Tell your friends about it. Maybe they want to play Crystal Beast Magnifistorming, right? And most importantly, though, is your time watching these videos. Your time that you dedicate to watching these videos is more important than any other forms of support, and I appreciate it deeply. That's going to be it for me today, so I will see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good one, and bye-bye.